What's going on, Stanio Clanyo? We're together again. You guys remember that Bronson Arroyo JTM commercial from like the early to mid 2000s with Chris Welch, and he's hawking beef hoagies. One of my favorite podcasts and writer in all of Cincinnati in general, Paul Daniel Jr. He's just the man. I love the guy. He's hilarious, and he's like my age, so all of his jokes make complete sense to me. But he launched a new podcast this week with one of his former journalists, Jay Morrison, and he started singing "We're Together Again," and kind of had a joke about that. He wanted to do a commercial back in the Reds dugout where he got Bronson Arroyo to come sing "Beef Hoagies," and I showed my kids this commercial. I asked like a ton of Gen Zers and millennials if they remembered it this week, and they had no idea. But I showed my kids the commercial, and like so throughout my house all week, we've just been singing "We're Together Again," beef hoagies. It's just such a terribly bad commercial, and it's hilarious. And if you're from Cincinnati, you know exactly what I'm talking about if you grew up here. If you're not from here, you're like, what the heck is going on with this guy? And why is he talking about Bronson Arroyo, a mid-tier pitcher from the early 2000s? I don't know, because it's Reds. My parents gave me a bunch of stuff this week. They're in that like clean out mode, like take everything away. And one of the things was like still in box Barry Larkin bobblehead. I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll take that. But I got all these crazy photos. You guys ever get like a ton of your old, you ever go through your old memorabilia, like photos and trinkets and like ribbons from track and field day or whatever? What do you do with all that stuff? I tend to pitch it now, but I want to keep some of it. I don't know. It takes forever. I don't have time for it. So it'll probably sit in my basement for years. Anyway, hey, welcome in. My name's Eric Stanio from Keller Williams Realty and Team Stanio Live. What's up, Stanio Clanyo? From the thumbnail, we are talking about Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky together again. And we're going to talk about kind of the growing economic region. I think it's an interesting topic. I came across an article this week. It's mostly about the Kentucky Tourism Board, but they talked about a partnership between MeetNKY and Cincinnati. So we're going to talk about that because I think it's something that's overlooked, and if messaged properly, it's important, and especially to a lot of you who are watching this channel from all across the country or even across the world, and you're thinking about moving to the Cincinnati or the Kentucky region. You're like, what's the difference? And what's the difference between the two? And it can get a little territorial here. It can make government projects hard because you're working with different states and counties and cities and municipalities. And there's a little bit of like, we're better than you. And like a great example, there's a brand new outdoor concert arena right to the east, like southeast corner of Paycor Stadium on Cincinnati side. This same exact venue is built like less than a mile away in Newport, Kentucky, across the river. And it's like, guys, do we really need two of these? And the answer is no, but it's like, man, I wish we could plan these things together. So we're going to talk about that. We've got some other news in terms of corporate investments and growth in the Cincinnati area. There's one construction project I want to show you guys that I think is interesting. We're going to talk about the spring housing market as well, and a new build community that I want to mention briefly as that goes along with the spring market. This week was crazy. I was working with a few of you who came into town. We were looking at new construction stuff, and some of you who are looking to buy resale homes. And I'm definitely feeling the market heating up. It's kind of exactly how I predicted it. I mean, we're still early. It was daylight savings today, so we sprung forward. So we all lost an hour of sleep, but we get an extra hour of light in the evening. And the spring season's starting to heat up, and properties are starting to go lightning fast. And so if you're looking to buy or sell, it's certainly, we'll talk about the market. So be sure to jump in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. As always, if you wouldn't mind liking this, commenting, that really helps other people see it. If you haven't subscribed, please join the Stanio Clanyo. And we'll get into some of this news. And as always, would love to answer your questions and answers and comments as we go. So feel free to join. That's why I like to do this live, so it can be interactive and we can kind of do this thing together because I don't need to listen to myself talk for an hour. Big news on the Team Stanio side. Speaking of myself talking for an hour. I've been kind of teasing this out for a little bit, but I just hired an actual videographer. So we've helped hundreds and hundreds of families buy and sell homes, and we have over 5,000 subs on the YouTube channel. Well, I hired a videographer to help improve the content, to make it better, to do more things in and around town. I just kind of want to be an ambassador for the city, and I'm excited to hire on William Ingram. I'll show you guys here real quick. So here's my man. He is way, way, way cooler than me. Super talented videographer, filmmaker, musician, artist. And so he's got a lot to bring to the table. He doesn't have a ton on his Instagram here, but he's great. And so if you're going to see my YouTube or my shorts feed start to blow up. So sorry in advance if you don't want all that real estate content, but I'm excited because there's so many things I've wanted to do, but just it's difficult for me to find the time or the talent or the skill. So pumped to bring on Ingram and bring you guys more content around real estate, but also just living in Cincinnati and kind of being an ambassador for the city. So big news there. Still looking for, by the way, if you are a real estate agent watching this, if you're an experienced agent in particular, Team Stanio is hiring. Reach out to me if you're not happy with where you're at or where your business is at or the team you're on. We would love to talk because we've got a lot of business and it's growing thanks to everyone who watches. So if you're an agent and you're interested in talking and getting on a team and making a jump particular, give me a shout. All right, let's look at some news. All right. Here's what's going on in Northern Kentucky. The Northern Kentucky tourism industry returns to pre-pandemic occupancy and profits. I hate this headline, but I thought that the article was actually really interesting. The tourism industry has fully recovered from the pandemic and then some. The region's occupancy rates and room revenue in 2023 surged past 2019 levels, according to a MeetNKY release following the organization's annual meeting March 7th. So MeetNKY is kind of like the Northern Kentucky Tourism Board. Here's a bit of their website for Northern Kentucky. Yeah, I'll accept your cookie. And you can get all kinds of info about the Northern Kentucky region. So that's mostly going to be like Boone, Kenton, and Campbell counties, but also heading a little bit further south, like Grant County and those areas down south. But Boone County is going to be Florence, Burlington, Union, Hebron. Kenton County is going to be Covington and Independence, Fort Mitchell, Crestview Hills, Edgewood, Taylor Mill. And then as you cross the Licking River here, you're in Campbell County with Newport, Fort Thomas, Bellevue, Highland Heights, and Alexandria, and beyond as you go south. So that's Meet Northern Kentucky. They're showing that their hotel room occupancy rates rose 1.3% to 68.5%. While revenue per room grew 7%, both records for Northern Kentucky. So Northern Kentucky is growing in terms of tourism and occupancy rates. We're laser focused around telling the stories of the Northern Kentucky region to attract visitors. Kirkpatrick announced at the meeting a new partnership between MeetNKY and ArtsWave to increase the cultural vibrancy of Northern Kentucky through art and creative placemaking. So if you've been around downtown in Cincinnati, you've seen ArtsWave. They're the ones who do the murals all around town, and there's a few of them in Covington. But very cool to see this partnership between ArtsWave and MeetNKY, and to kind of keep telling that story on the Northern Kentucky side, not just the Cincinnati side. ArtsWave will hire a creative placemaking director to work mostly in Covington, Newport, and surrounding areas. So they're going to see more art there, which is cool. And like I said, you can see some of those in Covington already. There's some that say like love the Cov and things like that. This is what I thought was also interesting about this article and what I made on the thumbnail and what I wanted to point out. Kirkpatrick from MeetNKY, they also described a solidified partnership with Visit Cincy, first announced in January, focused on leisure and travel marketing. The organizations, according to the release, will combine their websites into one official Visit Cincy site to increase tourism to the region. The organizations will remain separate, and MeetNKY will retain its own website, albeit hyper-focused on meetings and events. So this website is going to remain, but they're going to be doing a partnership with this Visit Cincy website, which I have. Oh, very interesting. Okay, maybe they're already doing it. So that's Northern Kentucky. There's the Big Mac Bridge going into Cincinnati. So you can already see, and the thing that kind of shocked me there, that's Fountain Square. That's Cincinnati murals. That's Cincinnati as well. But what I hadn't seen before, they were showing the Ark Encounter in Kentucky. There's a shot of Kentucky. There's the Newport Aquarium, which is in Kentucky. Cincinnati Zoo. That was Braxton Brewery in Covington, Kentucky. Then you got whiskey distilleries and bourbon, and then the Ark Encounter, which is also in Kentucky. So this is, what's interesting to me. They said their goal is to pool marketing resources to tell a whole story about the region to visitors who might not recognize state or county lines, according to a Meet Northern Kentucky spokesperson. And this is like, and I'll keep talking about this in just a second, but I had a client come in this weekend that we were working with. What's up, Brady? And there we go. They want to move up. They're in Nashville and they're getting priced out. And so, a new house down there that's of any decent quality is starting in like the 600s, but probably more like $700,000-$800,000. It's expensive down there. It's expensive in Nashville. I used to go to college in Nashville. It's a very different city from when I was there 20 years ago. And, but they've got family kind of like some in Ohio, some up in Cleveland area, and some down around Nashville. So they're kind of looking at Lexington, looking at Louisville, looking at Cincy, looking at Columbus. And they're like, we like Cincy the best, but we don't really know it that well. So they came up here to visit everything this weekend. They drove all around on the north side of Cincinnati because they want to stay. The whole point of moving up here and buying a house is they want to stay under 400. They're like, it's our first house. We don't need to go crazy. We just want a nice house, 400 or below. So I pointed them to the Ohio side, and they wanted to go new construction. So we were looking at Fisher Homes and Dries Homes. Pointing them to the Ohio side, we were looking at Morrow and Batavia, different areas where you could get under 400. And then on the Kentucky side, we were looking at, where were we? We were in Covington at Tuscany. We went down to Independence and Stonewater with Dries, over to kind of Aosta Valley in Walton. And then this morning they went and looked at Union, Ballyshannon, and Burlington Hunters Ridge with Fisher Homes. So, but they're like, we don't know. We've never been to Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky. We, as they were going around, they're kind of like, we kind of like the Northern Kentucky side better. I don't know what's going on with my focus today. Sorry if it's getting blurry. But they were like, where at least the neighborhoods they saw, they were like, we like the Northern Kentucky side better. I'm like, great. So when people are moving here to the region, to the city, they don't know, and I always tell my clients on the phone, like, if you've never lived here before, it's going to feel roughly the same. What's interesting about this region is it is a divider line kind of between the North and the South, but it's a gray area on both sides. Like Northern Kentucky has a more Kentucky feel because it's Kentucky, but it's not like Lexington or Louisville feel. Like it feels more like Cincinnati and Ohio. And likewise, Cincinnati feels like more like Kentucky than maybe Columbus or Cleveland, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a melting pot, I guess, between the North and the South. But it is, if you look at the Greater Cincinnati Metro, it's basically like 2/3 of the population is on the Ohio side and 1/3 in Kentucky. And Indiana's like, I don't know, a 20th. There's a little bit of Indiana in there too. And so, but for people moving here, it's going to feel about the same. But I think what's cool about this article, and I'll keep reading here, is they're going to try to tell a better story. They're coming together like that meme of the strong handshake, which I love that meme. So to try to grow the whole region. So checking out, so their goal, pool marketing resources, tell a whole story about the region to visitors who might not recognize state or county lines. These are my clients who are like, I don't know, like where Ohio ends and Kentucky starts and counties and neighborhoods. But this is the paragraph that really stood out to me. We are a place where bourbon and beer collide, where fried chicken and Cincinnati chili reign supreme. And so, okay, well, I'll read the whole thing, then we'll get into it. Where sports spectators can enjoy horse racing and the Bengals and Reds. Kirkpatrick said in the release, we are unlike any other region in the country because two unique sides of the river collide to make a cohesive community, and we're excited to lean into that more this year. Kudos to Julie Kirkpatrick and MeetNKY and Visit Cincy for coming together on this because, like I said, and the fact that they are different states and different cultures in some sense, like when you think of Cincinnati, what is going on here? Sorry, I don't know what's up with my camera today. People might be like, I don't know, the Bengals, the Reds, and you put chili on spaghetti. Like that's what most people kind of know. And it's like, yeah, we do. And when you think of Kentucky, you might think of horse racing and Kentucky Fried Chicken and bourbon. And you might think of like, I don't know, do they wear shoes in Kentucky? It's a little stereotypical, I know. And the answer is like, yes, we wear shoes. And there's a blend, and we have kind of cool cultures on both sides. So I like this idea that instead of trying to compete and tell a different story on each side, they're like, hey, we've got an idea, because if we grow the region, it helps everybody. Why don't we get our story straight and create a bigger story that's not saying like, look at what we have to offer over here in Cincinnati and what we have to offer over here in Kentucky, but let's paint a story of the whole region, because we have a lot to offer. And what's cool when they say, because there's two unique sides of the river, we're unlike any other region in the country because we have these different cultures. Now that's a bit of a marketing spin. I'm sure there's other places like that in the country, but it is unique here. I mean, Kentucky does have a different feel. And like the further you go south, if you want to head down to Lexington and look at the horse farms, if you want to go to Louisville and go to Churchill Downs and watch the Kentucky Derby, you're an hour and a half away from that. If you want to have that Cincinnati chili, if you want the Reds, the Bengals, the museums, most of that is in Ohio. But like going back to this, I'm glad they already kind of launched this. It looks like this visitcincy.com, and kudos to Kentucky for kind of like humbling themselves in a way. And I think honestly, that's what keeps a lot of this partnership for happening over the years is pride, and not being like, hey, maybe we should partner up and tell a better story together so that people see everything the region has to offer instead of having like two different websites. Let's market this thing together. I'm all for it. I think it's cool. Good job, Northern Kentucky, MeetNKY. Good job, Julie Kirkpatrick, and Visit Cincy. Let's keep telling the story of this region because it's awesome. It's awesome. So what say you guys in the comments? Let me know. But certainly it's, I've lived on both sides of the river. I grew up in Northern Kentucky. I went to college in Nashville, like I just said, and I moved back and lived in Anderson Township, which is southeast Cincinnati, and helped start a Young Life area over there when I graduated college. I lived over there for 8 years, from 03 to 11. And then, then we moved back into Northern Kentucky once we started having grandkids and getting closer to the grandparents. So, I love both parts of the region. I think it's fun for me to help people who are moving here to kind of uniquely share both sides of the river. There's a lot of real estate agents, which I don't know why they do this, but they're only licensed in Kentucky and they're only licensed in Ohio. I'm like, why are you doing that? Because it can help so many more people who are looking for either side of the river. And there's benefits to both sides. So, so that's that first story. We'll move along here. Peter, what's up? Margaritaville on the levee is about to go crazy. Yeah, that's awesome that they're building that. Funny, not funny, sad that Jimmy Buffett, RIP, went down right before Margaritaville. Since he's like always been a crazy popular place for Jimmy Buffett to play over at Riverbend. And so they're building this big thing on the levee, and unfortunately he passed away this year, but that'll be fun. More stuff down on the river, I think, is a good thing for sure. Okay. That's story one. Moving on. Story number two. More development in the region. Let's talk about that. Cincinnati ranks 8th in U.S. for corporate investment per capita, according to site selection rankings. What are we talking about? We're talking about Cincinnati is a top producer of corporate investment projects in the country, according to site selection. And this goes back again. I've talked about this a lot, but like the Midwest, I mean, a lot of the cities on here are going to be Midwest because it's a good place for investment right now. A lot of dollars since COVID. A lot of people have been moving kind of away from the coast, kind of away from more expensive cities or expensive states or more tax heavy states and cities. And they're like, oh, the Midwest is pretty cool. And there's a good labor market there. And I could invest in corporate investment projects. So this is from 2023, March 1, they published. Of the Queen City saw 91 projects in 2023. And if you guys watched a few weeks ago, I went over some of the top projects that are coming in 2024 as well. But the Cincinnati saw the most among cities in Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, or Tennessee, and third most in the East North Central region, i.e. the Midwest. So the only two they were behind was Chicago and Indianapolis. Here's a look. If you guys can see this, try to make this a little bigger. Indianapolis had 109 total projects, and their population is a little bit less than us, 2.12 million versus the 2.26 for Cincy. But projects per million, Cincy is right there at 40.3. So we're beating out Columbus, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Detroit, KC, Louisville, Cleveland, Dayton, Nashville, Pittsburgh, and Milwaukee in terms of the number of total overall projects. Cincinnati placed 11th overall in total project count, one spot behind Austin. So when you think about that, you might hear, I've heard a lot of hype the last several years about how Austin is booming and everyone from Texas and Joe Rogan has moved to Austin. And in terms of the overall total project count, Cincinnati's just one ranking behind Austin. So interesting to think about that. Just when you're thinking about, if you are thinking about moving here, what does that mean for you for job stability? What does that mean for job growth? I know a lot of people ask me, like, is it too crowded there? I'm leaving somewhere because I don't want to be crowded anymore. Try to move this a little bit. And so, but I don't think we're overpopulated here in Cincy by any means. There's plenty of land, plenty of well, not plenty of houses, but there's plenty of land to grow. And but in terms of projects, we are 11th overall. It placed 8th overall in projects per capita. So 11th in overall total project count, but 8th per capita with 40.3 projects per million residents. So there you go. Okay. So there's the market continuing to grow here. I thought, given our first article of the night, we talk about the growth here in Cincinnati. So let's move on to our next headline for the night. Cincinnati gives new estimate on how much Central Parkway overhill will cost. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I just want to mention the fact that if you see this photo, let's see if I can make it any bigger. You've got FC Cincinnati Stadium and Central Parkway right here. What they're really trying to do, and there's Music Hall, here's Washington Park, and there's going to be there's a $300 million project going in here, new hotel, restaurants, things like that going around FC Cincinnati. A lot of your over the Rhine restaurants are right here. So what they're really trying to do is make this, a Banks North, so to speak, kind of combine it with over the Rhine and make it more, more resident friendly. And so what's shocking, there's one shocking thing to me, which is the cost is $15.5 million is the estimate, down from an earlier $20 million ballpark figure. And I mean, have you ever heard of a government project where the estimate actually came down from where they first estimated? So kudos to you guys, whoever did that. And the one thing I wanted to read here is the planned Central Parkway overhaul will reduce the road to 1 or 2 lanes of traffic. It's going to plant a tree canopy and add a pedestrian plaza adjacent to FC Cincinnati's TQL Stadium. The goal is to redesign the part of the artery that connects downtown to over the Rhine and the West End to be more pedestrian friendly and spur development. So I'm all for that. Just wanted to point that out. The estimate's down, but again, I just wanted to point out there are efforts to make Cincy more pedestrian friendly. to get more people in and enjoying the city downtown. So cool for that. All right, moving on. We're rocking and rolling tonight. We're 25 minutes in. So if you got questions tonight, put them in the chat because yeah, we are moving on. And it's daylight savings. I've got my 8-year-old here, and so that my 8-year-old doesn't go absolutely insane on my wife tomorrow, I need to get him to bed fairly soon. So hey, we talk about family here at Team Sanyo because it's not just all about the real estate. It's not all about dollars and cents, people. It's about your kids and your family and your loved ones too. So I'm going to try to love my wife and get my son home on time so he can get some sleep so he's not a crazy person tomorrow. More crazy than sometimes he is, but you know, kids can be hard. So, all right, moving on to the next headline. The housing market. All right. I do want to dig into this one again a little bit. So the spring housing market is expected to see more inventory, but won't be without its challenges. Yep. Okay. This year's spring housing market is expected to have more inventory and less volatile mortgage rates than last year, but it won't be without its challenges. It's likely that buyers will actually face intense competition as the for sale housing market enters its prime buying and selling season, said Divon guy, I don't know, senior economist at Zillow Group. New listings are up. So this is a national. This isn't Cincy, just FYI. This is a national report. New listings are up about 20% year over year, according to Zillow, but homes aren't staying on the market long. Homes were on the market an average of 17 days in February. Zillow research shows that's 10 days shorter than the pre-pandemic norms. All right, I want to stop there for a second. So a couple of things mentioned so far. Rates are more stabilized. I've talked a lot about on this channel. You know, last year we had about 20% less units sold overall in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky versus 2022. You know, because the rates were volatile, because they went up, a lot of the buyers sat out. Additionally, a lot of sellers sat out last year because as the rates were going up and they were looking at their 2-3% mortgage rate, they're like, do I really want to sell my house and get into a 7% mortgage rate? No. And so I'm not going to sell my house. Well, those rates have kind of stabilized now, and they're indicated that they may go down. And so not only did you have buyers sit out last year, but you also had sellers sit out. And so we might see some of that more inventory come out, but you're also going to see more demand come out because all those buyers who sat out are ready to buy a house. They're tired of being in their lease. Okay. Despite the increase in new listings, you're seeing homes are selling really fast. So inventory isn't growing that much. Things are moving really, really fast. What a great quote. So I just want to highlight that again. What a great quote. Despite the increase in new listings, you're seeing homes are selling really fast. So inventory isn't growing that much. Things are moving really, really fast, especially for homes priced to sell and that are in great shape. So again, I talk about this all the time. I've mentioned this and what you can expect with this year coming. If you price your home right, at what you think it'll sell for or below, which is what I recommend to tell my sellers to do, you're going to sell it fast and you're going to get the top of the market because you're going to get a lot of buyers in there and they're going to bid it up to what the market says it's worth. And that's the way you should sell a house right now. If you price it too high, I don't recommend that. If you overshoot it, a couple of things are going to happen. It's going to sit on the market. And when prices and when homes are selling really, really fast, like the Zillow chief economist is saying, and your home's not selling really, really fast, then that means you have to drop the price. And then buyers are going to look at you funny and they're going to be like, what is wrong with your house? And then they're going to give you an offer that's less than your list price. And that's just the wrong direction. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're going to sell a house, please contact me and don't do that. Don't be like, well, Joe's house went for $527,000 and I painted my deck last year. I know you. Don't do it. And you'll be like, yeah, well, he doesn't have the new faucet that I put in, and I've got LED lights. just don't do it. Just talk to a real estate agent and don't price your house too high. People, it's not that complicated. Okay. Just don't do it. Don't get greedy. The best way to make the most money is to not list it too high. Listen to what I'm saying, please. Okay. And you know what? While you're at it, uh, use me to sell your house. I'll help you get the most money. Okay. During the 4-week period ending February 25th, listings of U.S. homes for sale rose 13% year over year. So, okay, listings up year over year, 13%. That's the biggest increase in nearly 3 years, according to Redfin. While active listings in that time frame were flat from the same period a year ago, it was the first time in 9 months the total number of for sale homes didn't decline. Okay. So inventory, this is predictable. Inventory is going back a little bit because people want to sell their home. They can't sit on that thing forever. However, still, the 2024 spring housing market isn't likely to resemble the frenzied market of 2021 and early 2022 before mortgage rates began their rapid ascent. While competition for homes is expected to be more fierce than last year, affordability remains a major barrier for home buyers, and home prices aren't going down. So 2021, really starting in 20, but 2021, it was like you had to sell your birthright to get a house. That was hard. That was really hard. 2022 was like that as well. Really hard to get a house. And while that demand is still there, and while the inventory is still low, the problem is you're hitting an affordability issue. Because home prices rates have gone up, home prices have gone up. And so, but wages wages have gone up, but like not enough with both home prices and the rates. And so what people can afford is hitting this max, and we are hitting like that ceiling of affordability. So even though there's not a lot of houses and there is demand, it's probably won't be as crazy. Still going to be crazy, but maybe not quite as crazy as 2021 because those prices were down. We're talking 3 years ago now, and we've seen 10% on average at least a year. So you look, prices were down 30%. So the same buyer who's buying a $500,000 house now, 30%, 3 years ago, that house was $350,000, right? 30% times 500,000, $150,000. So like you're hitting this affordability issue. And so inventory is still low. You're still going to be in multiple offers if you're a buyer for something that's priced right, especially here in Cincinnati. Remember, this is a national report. They're not talking about Cincinnati. And last year, Cincinnati was the fastest selling real estate market. Why? Because we're a freaking cool city. And our affordability is still really competitive nationwide. And so get in while you can. And that, man, it's so sad. Eric, if you're watching this, I talked to a guy who moved here a few years ago, and he's been renting. He's been waiting for prices to come down and interest rates to come down. And I'm like, man, I'm sorry. Like, I wish you would have bought 2 years ago. And he's like, yeah, me too. So, but you might be out there and you might be saying, well, Eric, you're the real estate agent. You're just trying to make me buy a house, you money grubbing real estate agent. I wouldn't mind it if you buy a house. If you use me, great. But that's not what I'm saying. I don't see prices coming down anytime soon because the inventory doesn't match. Like, we can't catch up on the inventory. And this is why I keep doing new construction videos, because there's only one way to do it. You've got to build more, because like, if you just keep buying and selling the same houses, but more buyers are coming into the market as millennials and Gen Z are coming into the market. Like, where are the houses coming from? Because boomers are hanging on to them because they don't want to buy, they don't want to move into like senior living or assisted living because their house is paid off, and they are like, no, I'm good. And so I don't blame them either. Like, that's what my parents are doing. They're like, yeah, we'll just get the chair that goes up the stairs. I'm like, yeah, makes sense. Your house is paid off. It's a nice house, can still host the family gatherings. We live nearby. We'll take care of you, and you can take a chair up your stairs when your knees and hips don't work. Like, that's happening all across the country. And so there's no inventory hitting the market. From the boomers, you got to build. All right, back to this thing. Is this making sense, guys? Is this making sense to you? I noticed a lot of homes for sale on real estate sites in Northern Kentucky are empty. Any reason for that? Yeah, they probably didn't listen to me and they priced it too high. Or, if anything is sitting, there is a wart on it, or there are 2 warts on it, or 3 or 4. So if there's any houses that are sitting that are empty, it's because they didn't listen to the real estate agent, or the real estate agent is bad. But the reason is it's either priced too high, or there's something about that people don't like the condition is really bad, and the cost, the cost to make the repairs on whatever that thing is, or the updates is still not where it should be in terms of the market. Now, pro tip, and this is what I always tell my buyers, because in this market, when everything is crazy and selling really fast and really, really, really fast, said Zillow's chief economist, pro tip is look for these houses that are sitting empty, because those are the ones where you're probably not, you're not fighting in multiple offers. Yeah, there are some things wrong with it, but price it in, because that seller's freaked out because they haven't sold the house. They've probably dropped the price, or they're thinking about it, or they're going to, and then you can put that offer in lower than that list price. And what are you like? You're in control. It's like one of the few spots in the entire market right now where you as a buyer can have a little bit of control, just a little bit. So I think those are great options. Now, look, they're going to smell. That house is going to smell. Okay. And it's going to have, you're going to walk into it and you're going to be like, ugh, I don't like this wallpaper. Yeah. Okay. That's why it's sitting. When I went into my first, when I bought my first investment property, I partnered with a friend. His name's Eric. I love him. He's fantastic. And we went around looking at duplexes. I was like, hey man, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me buy the thing? And then we'll partner. Like he's like, yeah. So, cause he already had like 15, 20 properties. And we went into duplex after duplex, me and my cute little wife, and we'd walk in and be like, oh, like this is so gross. And he'd go, do you smell that? And I would say, yeah. And he goes, smells like money. And that was my favorite lesson I've ever learned in real estate, which is if you buy the thing that other people don't like because it has warts and it smells bad, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity for equity. What does Jordan Peterson say? What does he say? Always remember, opportunity exists where responsibility has been abdicated. That's a great rule. So yeah, if you see any that are hiding on, and don't unsubscribe for me because I quoted Jordan Peterson, people chill out. So yeah, Chris, that's why. Brandon, what's up? I believe it's all dependent on employment. As long as employment is steady, I believe houses will rise in this inflationary market. Yeah, I mean, there can certainly be an issue. I'm not saying that we can't have a recession. I'm not saying there can't be some world war that causes things to go crazy, or there's some Lehman Brothers corruption going on somewhere where everything resets. But I do know that, the '08 recession, which people still cite and are like scared, and they're like waiting, like, when's the bubble going to burst? When's the bubble going to burst? I'm like, dude, there was a bubble because people shouldn't have been getting loans, right? And everyone was buying things they couldn't afford. And builders, we had an oversupply of inventory, because everybody who could fog up a mirror could get a loan. And so you could buy a house. So builders were like, ding, 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 and they were building everything. We had tons of supply, and then whack. And then pop bubble because of the shady loan practices. People were living in houses they couldn't afford. Then the recession hits. Then they lose their job. Then they have zero equity in the house. And now you had a ton of inventory. Then you had even more inventory. There were foreclosures everywhere across the country. And I wish I would have been a real estate investor then and had money, but I didn't. I was a young kid because people were gobbling up foreclosures and scooping them up like crazy. And so I'm not saying a recession can't happen. Obviously it can. I'm not a Nostradamus. I can't predict. I'm not an economist, guys. I'm a real estate agent. Don't get all your economic advice from me, okay? But also no, I will say this, like where we're at from an inventory standpoint compared to where we were in 07, 08, nowhere even nearly close. Because what happened, I'll just keep telling this story over and over again, is that what happened was the recession hit and all these builders went out of business. And then builders underbuilt because so many builders got burnt. They underbuilt for like 12 years from 08 to 2020, basically. And then like the pandemic hit and like everyone's like, oh, we don't have enough houses because nobody wanted to live in an apartment. People could take their jobs wherever. Millennials started buying and the builders were like, oh, we need to build again. But the problem is that they can't catch up. They can. It's just going to take several years. We're like inching our way there every year. So, yeah, Brandon. Obviously, employment is a huge part of that. That's again, that's another reason why I love this city and why I am planning to keep my family here for generations to come. Is because it's a very diverse economic city from a lot of fronts. We're not too dependent on any one industry. If P&G left, God forbid, or Fifth or Kroger or whatever, like Cincy's going to make it. It's not like we're not Detroit, we're not Motown, we're not dependent on any one thing. And we're resilient. We're kind of right down the middle. So, yeah, good point, Alex. What's up? The former owner didn't paint the condo and had a sticky old carpet on the market for 4 months. I got a deal. Bam. You. I love stinky old carpet. Smells like money. So yeah, if you guys are out there and you see something that's sitting, hit us up. Let's go. Let's go make them an offer and be like, hey, what else you got? You got nothing because you got some leverage there. Heck yeah, it's all good. So yes, that's the place where you can get a little bit of money. In terms of real estate investing, would you recommend Northern Kentucky or Cincinnati for the best results? Yes, is my answer. A deal's a deal wherever it is. I like both Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. But make sure the numbers work. Make sure you understand what's going on in that specific neighborhood. Real estate is local. What are your investment goals? I highly recommend. All right. Oh boy. Let's see if I don't try not to drop things. Okay. This one. This one. And this one. Okay. All right. This one. Equity Happens by Robert Helms and Russell Gray. You can find these guys on podcasts called the Real Estate Guys Radio. They are old school dudes. I cold called these dudes when they came to a conference in Indianapolis, and I knew they liked beer, so I brought them a bunch of local beer and said, hey, your website stinks. Can I fix your website? This was like 10 years ago. And they hired me on the spot. So note to you guys out there, you can get jobs with people. But this great book, it's kind of hard to find. It's not in print really anymore, but you can probably find some used ones. Just an awesome book about teaching you about wealth, real estate, how equity happens. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Hold, How to Find, Buy, and Rent Houses for Wealth by Steve Chater. But Jim and Linda McKissick, who are the owners of My Keller Williams Region, who are fantastic people. I went through a class with them. I love those guys. And this is kind of a simple read. This one is a little bit longer. Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, the founder and owner of Keller Williams Realty, with Dave Jenks and Jay Pappison. Now, both of these, they're going to talk about creating your investment strategy. You got to start there. You got to know, what am I trying to do? Otherwise, you just be looking all over the place and you don't know, you won't know a deal when you see it. So figure out your investment strategy. Then what I did was I started working with people who knew what the heck they were doing. These guys have a great line that say, one thing you need to avoid is analysis paralysis. And so when you're first getting started in real estate investing, everything seems scary and for good reason. But you don't know what you're doing, but you can overthink everything too. So they're always like, just get going. Like, and I recommend that to people too. Like, don't try to hit a double or triple or a home run on your first investment property. Like, get out there and hit a single. Like, can you go buy a duplex and live in it? Then go do that. Like, can you like rent out one side, it's paying down your mortgage, live in the other side, save up the money, buy the next one, rent out the second unit, do it again. Like, it's not complicated. But yes, Northern Kentucky or Cincy, yeah. I mean, there's great neighborhoods both sides of the river. My answer to that is yes. I primarily invest in Northern Kentucky just because I'm kind of lumping mine together, and I grew up there, so I know it a little bit better. And like when I'm driving to my parents' house, it's like on the way, that kind of thing. So that's part of your investment criteria. Do you want to invest local? Do you want to invest in Memphis, Tennessee, or like Kansas City or wherever else? So yes to that. And okay, other great comments, guys. Love this. Thanks. I agree with you. Way too much talk about 2008. Totally different. Yep. So are you telling us to buy stinky house as for sale? Of course I am. You can make it unstinky. You don't have to live in the stinky house, but yes, you should buy the stinky house. Absolutely. Or you should buy the new house, which costs a lot more money. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm saying, if you want to build equity, if you are more financially, like, if you want a deal, like the only way you can kind of get a deal right now is that house is going to be stinky. So, so just know that. And like, when I go show you the house and you're like, oh, I don't like this. Like, this sink is from 1965. I'm like, I know it is. Yeah, I know. I know it's pink. It's pink. And there's shag carpet. It used to be orange, but now it's like a mustard yellow. It's gross, but you can replace carpet. And you can get a deal on this house. So yes, that is what I'm telling you. All right, back to this article. That was quite the tangent, everybody. I don't know how we got there. Where were we? Okay. Oh, affordability remains a major barrier. That's where we were. Okay. So there you go. There's your real estate economics lesson. All right. Zillow recently found that buyers need to make more than $106,000 to comfortably afford a home, an 80% increase from $59,000 in 2020. That's rough. I'm not going to lie. Hey, millennials, Gen Zers, that's rough. Okay. And when I see your TikToks and your Instagram reels and your YouTube shorts complaining about it, I don't like complaining as a general moral rule. However, I do agree with you. An 80% increase in what you need to make to comfortably afford a home is crazy. So I agree. That's rough. But don't go blaming it all on us, okay? There's still things you can do. Or you can blame it on the boomers, I guess. Yeah. It's all the boomers' fault. It's all their fault. That's primarily because the monthly mortgage payment on a typical U.S. home is up 96% from early 2020 to $2,188, assuming a 10% down payment. Monthly? That can't be right. What? Those numbers seem crazy. A monthly mortgage payment on a typical U.S. home is up 96% from 2020. Gosh. To 2188. Okay. In January, about 1 in 5 homes on the market nationally had to cut its asking price. 1 in 5. Okay, so some people went too high. Long gone are the 2021 days. There are affordability challenges. Okay, the chief economist at Redfin, Daryl Fairweather, says the recent uptick in new listings is a welcome improvement from last year, but there remains a lot of demand for homes, and more inventory will mean more buyers in the market. And even with the recent improvement in listings, there's still a lack of inventory nationwide. Wah, wah. This is like, do you guys remember that? Okay, I'm dating myself. There's the Eeyore, but do you remember, what was it, Rachel Dratch on Saturday Night Live played the Debbie Downer character, and she's like, "Wah, wah." She'd always look at the camera and say like the like saddest thing. That's what the chief economist is doing here. There's a recent uptick in new listings, but there remains a lot of demand for homes. I don't have a good enough Rachel Dratch face. And even with the recent improvement in listings, there's still a lack of inventory. I don't know. You guys, I'm sure nobody gets that skit, what I'm talking about. So I'm going to continue on. The new construction market continues to chug ahead. Okay, so this is also interesting. The new construction market continues to chug ahead with housing starts at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.3 million in January. But those are typically more expensive homes, Fairweather said. So, yeah. Yep. So, again, I'm just going to keep telling the same story over and over again. Low inventory, high demand. There's going to be sellers going to sell a little bit more, but more buyers are going to come buy them, even though affordability is hard. So you could buy one of those houses and you can duke it out with other buyers. You can buy the stinky house that needs money and stinks. Or you can go new construction, which does not stink. It smells great even. And you walk in there, you walk into that model home and you're like, this is really nice. Like I really like this. Everything's nice. And I want to tell you a secret. They are. It is really nice. And you walk into that model home and you're like, yeah, I want this. Because guess what? The roof is new, and the floor is new, and the kitchen is new, and the bathrooms are new, and the furnace is new, and the water heater is new. The water heater is new. Everything's new, and you have to pay for it. You have to pay more, but everything's new, and you don't have to compete against all the other buyers. So there's pros and cons to everything. So if you're selling a home to buy again, that doesn't really help with the overall level of competition because it's also creating a new buyer, Fairweather said. Even with the new listings coming on the market, demand will match supply in a way where prices will continue to remain steady or even rise. So he's like, yeah, not much more inventory. Is kind of what Fairweather said. Guys, it's going to be the same for years to come. I'm telling you. Don't wait for the bubble to burst, okay? So what's going to happen with mortgage rates? The Fed is widely anticipated to make its first interest rate cut later this spring, although much still hinges on the U.S. labor market and consumer price index. If the Fed does cut rates, Fairweather said, mortgage rates should fall, which would make housing more affordable and bring back more buyers to the market. This is a pretty good bit. I don't know. It's making me laugh. This is why I'm not a stand-up comedian, folks. But yeah, rates are going to come down and more buyers are going to come back to the market that you'll have to rock 'em, sock 'em against. And if you don't want to do that, because he says competition would heat up and prices will go up. Competition would heat up and prices will go up, she said, adding, if affordability improves this summer, it could make people feel more positive about the economy overall. So this is why I guarantee you this is going to happen. I guarantee you the Fed is going to cut rates and rates will go down. Do you want to know why? It's election year. Anything happening in November, folks? How are people feeling about the current president right now? Not too great. What is one way the current president could make people feel more positive? Drop the interest rates. So I guarantee you that rates are going to go down this year because this is an election year and you got to pull them levers before we go to the voting booths, right? I'm not talking about election fraud, people. Chill out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what do politicians do? They try to get people to vote for them. How do you do that? Put more money in their pocket. The problem is rates will go down, but prices are going to keep going up and more competition's coming on the market. So it's tough. It is tough. I'm not going to lie. Divoon guy said the market is still expecting at least 3 rate cuts this year, and those reductions have largely been baked into the mortgage rate decline seen since rates peaked in October. So maybe rates won't go down. Maybe the rates have already come down because they said they were going to do it, even though they haven't done it yet. If the labor market's too strong, if wage growth comes in way hotter than expected, if CPI comes in hotter than expected, you're likely going to see mortgage rates increase again. Well, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll go up. Maybe they will again. If, however, the economy continues to move closer to the Fed's stated 2% inflation target, mortgage rates may ease, but only slightly. They're going to give you just enough little juice to get you to buy that house and make the economy go. It's most likely mortgage rates will remain. I'm being a little creepy tonight, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like I'm drunk, but I'm not drunk, but I almost just spilled my tea. Okay. Maybe it's the daylight saving hour. I don't know. I tell people don't expect a big drop in mortgage rates. He said that would only come from a massive decline in economic activity. Yep. So that's the big things. I think spring needs to arrive for Eric. Laugh aloud. You're funny today. No kidding. Guys, yeah. Gray days and 35 degrees and all my kids inside the house. And this is me. My wife's with them all the time. She's like, cuckoo. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So, one more headline, and then I'm going to bounce and get my kid home. The one thing I want to show, let me just break this down again. If you're a buyer, if you're a buyer and you're looking at the resale market, those homes are going to be more affordable than new construction. Okay. More affordable than new construction, still unaffordable in terms of 2020. Good gosh, 80% higher. If you're in that market, if something hits that first weekend, you're like, I want to go see it. My team's going to help you out. We're going to go see it. But I just submitted an offer for, sorry, it's not. I don't know what's going on with my camera tonight. I submitted an offer for some clients tonight, and it's multiple offers. We did an escalation clause. You're kind of doing this, and it might take a couple to win, honestly, unless you're kind of shopping a little. And this is what I say: shop a little bit below your top budget so that you can go over, because you're probably going to have to in the resale market. Or you could buy the stinky house, which we talked about, and do some work on it. Or you can buy new construction. And I think builders are going to keep doing, they're trying to gobble up as much land as possible because they know inventory is low and they know that the market is there for it. So here is an article of a new, I wanted to show this one, and I am going to go down and do a video. The Fisher Homes model unit is $30 million community in Walton Square, crossings at Walton Square. And this is mostly condos going in. It's in Boone County. It's kind of right off the highway. I'll show you guys where this is. Fisher Homes Crossings, Walton. So you are going to be, it's right off the interstate. So it's really convenient to I-75. So even though it's a little bit further south, Walton it's further south than Union, a couple exits. You're right off the interstate. And so right after the I-71, I-75 split, on I-75 South going down to Lexington. You got shopping up at Florence. You're going to be there in 15 minutes, and you're going to be downtown in 30 would be my guess. You know what? I'm going to do a different guess. I'm going to say 29 minutes to GABP. Let's check it out. GABP. Oh, man, I'm way off. 23 minutes. Let's go. So you're right off the interstate. So 23 minutes to down to Great American Ballpark if you want to catch a Reds game, which, by the way, Stanio Clanio, we got a Reds game coming up. I'm super excited. We're going to blow it out this year. Last year we did around 200 people. This year we're going to try to do, hopefully, we're still putting it together, but hopefully we're going to do around 500 people come to a Reds game. So first it's going to be opened up to clients, and then clients can refer people out. And then we'll probably open it up. But hey, if you want to go to a free Reds game, just buy a house. I mean, it's not like that hard. So, but here's what I want to show you. These condos are affordable. 125 condos, prices as low as 170 and up to 280. Now, again, I know most people want a single family home, but to get into something and to own equity, and since we're hitting so much of that affordability issue, to get into something in the 170s, and that's going to be their Kimball starting at 178. It's a 2-bedroom, 1,100 square foot, 2-bath condo. And so, and again, you're probably going to do some selection. So this will probably get up to around 200,000 when you're done. But this is cute. Look at this thing. Okay. So, I mean, that 180, you're going to be having base level cabinets, base level counters, base level carpet, and fixtures in the bathroom and things like that. This looks like it's virtually staged. Maybe furniture looks kind of fake to me. But you can own instead of rent for 180. If you buy everything baseline, cool. Like, and then on the high end, what did I say? In the 250s, I think it's up to 288. And what does that give you? Sorry, 254 is the Hayward B. It's also 2.2, but you can get up to 1,600 square feet on that one, 1,469. So here's a look at the Hayward. I'm going to go down there, guys, and shoot some video and show you these. But I mean, look, if affordability is an issue and you don't want to fight everyone, again, the downside to the townhome or the condos, you don't get the yard, you don't get your own space. But I will say these guys, they do much better today in terms of soundproofing and insulation. I've got a condo by Fisher actually that I'm using kind of as a rental / personal use in Alexandria and Arcadia, and it's quiet in there. And I really like it. And that was built in 2018, I think. So their construction has done well. But you can get, a balcony here. So like I said, I'm going to go down here and shoot a video, but I just want to say, going along with this idea of where we're at in the marketplace with more inventory, but all these challenges, I still want to say, new construction, guys, is an option. Let's see if there's any amenities here. Location, recreation. So it's just saying like you're close to parks. So I don't think private entries, attached garages, no step living options are also available. So these are also can be good options for seniors who are looking to downsize. Definitely good options. You can have that no step living. You can have a garage, low maintenance. So having a yard is nice, but not having a yard is also nice, and not taking care of it. And, taking that time to do what you want to do with your time instead of mowing your yard, which can be very annoying. I do want to say one thing about Fisher Homes. I've got a video coming out that Fisher Homes might get mad at me at. I know I plug them a lot here. My thumbnail, you guys might laugh at if you subscribe to the channel, because it's like me going like, don't do this. And with a big Fisher Homes logo in the background. But I mentioned this last week. I'm going to mention it again. They made a change in their implementation of a policy, which is if you do want to go new construction with Fisher, and really Drees kind of says the same thing, and you want a real estate agent to work along to represent you in the transaction, meaning we'll help you kind of with your selections and picking out the neighborhood. Basically, we're hired to work for you. Whereas if you only work with the builder, they're hired to work for the builder. And you can buy new construction without using an agent. You can definitely do that. Come on, focus. What's going on here? I don't know what is going on. So you can buy new construction without an agent. You can work with the builder only, but you don't have someone working on your behalf. So when things go wrong. So this Saturday, we had kind of a walkthrough. We've got a closing on Fisher Home in Ballyshannon next Friday. And there's just a few more things that needed to be done. Some communication went a little sour. And it's like, hey, this is my time to step in and say, I hear your concerns. I hear your concerns. We all want the same thing here. Let's get along. And Fisher is fixing everything the client wants fixed, which is great because that's their job. And they want the client to be happy. But it was nice for the client to be able to come to me and be like, Eric, what the heck? Can you help here? And I'm like, yes, I can. That's my job. So it's nice to have an agent, even if you go with new construction. Now, update. Need some water. Sorry, man, I'm past an hour now. If you want to have an agent, you have to come to us first. What Fisher Homes changed in their policy is, well, here's what the rule says: the agent needs to threshold the client or the lead. They need to be at that introductory meeting, basically. So basically, we need to be at that first meeting, or at least the first invite or connection via email or phone call, and we need to be the procuring cause of the deal, meaning the buyer is choosing to go with the builder because the agent recommended them, essentially. And it's like a big portion. Otherwise, Fisher's like, well, how do we know if it was the agent? What if it was our marketing that we spent over here, with our online marketing, or however, they're spending our billboard at CVG. And so that makes sense. But what they, in the past, if someone walked in and got registered with Fisher Homes and that said, you know what, I want an agent, I want to go get an agent. After that first registration, they'd come to me, because a lot of people do this. They find my videos and they're like, will you be our agent? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then I have to go back to that sales counselor and say, hey, can you add me? Excuse me. And most of the times they would say, yeah, no problem. Or let me talk to my manager first, or, how long you've been working with the client. Because again, they want to know, are you the procuring cause? And a lot of times I get that phone call. People are like, hey, I'm seeing these reviews online. Like, can I trust them? Do you like this neighborhood? They have questions they want asked from someone who knows the market, and not just the builder who's trying to sell them a house. And that makes sense. So Fisher Homes changed that and said, no longer, if you don't name the agent at your first threshold meeting, that first introductory meeting, when you first get registered, then they're not allowing you to add an agent later on in the process. And I get it from their standpoint why they're doing that. They don't want agents to just be added for no reason. I'm trying to make that argument of like, look, a lot of times people don't know, like they walk into the model home or they register online, and then as they research the process more, because they just want initial info, and then they, then they understand the process and they're like, oh, maybe I should have an agent. And then they reach out to me. So I'm whatever. That's more of an internal conversation I'm having. I'm like, I don't know, like maybe you want to modify your policy slightly, but I'm telling you, because I think it's in your best interest, in my opinion, and it's a no-brainer because the builder's paying for the commission. It doesn't mean your house costs more. It doesn't mean you get any less in incentives or deals or anything like that. When the builders want agents to bring them clients. It's a form of marketing for them. They want good, healthy relationships with agents, and they pay for that. They pay for that in a commission back to the agent. So I'm working for you, but the builder's going to pay me. That's a good deal. You get representation, you get the house you want, doesn't cost you any more. It's a good deal for Fisher because they get more leads from people like me who's like, hey, yeah, I mean, in this market, here's why new construction can be a good option. You don't have to fight everyone else. It's going to cost a little more, but you can time it up, but you don't have to fight everyone in the resale market, and maybe still do repairs and updates after that. There's a reason for I'm not trying to force you into that, but I am telling you, if you go that route, please reach out to us first. And so that's a video I've got coming out this week with a thumbnail that, I don't know, I hope they don't get really mad at me, but like they're the ones who made the change. So in the past, I've kind of been like, yeah, you should reach out to us. But now I'm like, you got to do it first. Otherwise, you're not going to get to have an agent working with you. Cause I had a deal where what I just told you, like a client went to them first and then went to add me, and they made this change in how they're, being stricter on implementing this policy. And they're like, yeah, we're not adding you. And I was like, oh, well, that stinks. And I told my client, and my argument to Fisher was like, but the client is asked, like, have you talked to the client? Cause like they really want to have an agent and they haven't signed a contract with you guys yet. You might lose a client. They're like, meh. And that might be a little bit over exaggerating it, but it was kind of the impression I got. I was like, well, that's a weird way to do business. Like, you're going to lose this to another builder, or another. And they were like, well, we're implementing this policy now. So there's some break-even point for them that makes sense. And I get it. Like, if agents are getting named on everything when they weren't the procuring cause, I get why they would do that from a business standpoint. But it's definitely causing a lot of ripple effects around the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky community right now on multiple levels. So what I want to say to you guys, again, is if you go new construction, just reach out to us first, then it's fine. As long as we make that introduction, Easy, no problem. And if you did reach out to them first and you're like, oh crap, I can't use you now, still reach out to me because if you haven't signed the contract yet, there is like a 90-day window. So if you haven't been in touch with them in a while, you can kind of there's a way to get around it essentially. I don't know if Fisher Homes wants me to say this, but like you can kind of reset that clock potentially if you haven't, if like you're still waiting to build your house in the future. So anyway, I think that's important for you guys to know. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. My throat hurts, and that was a lot of information for the night. That was longer. I thought this was going to be a short one. Ended up being longer. You guys got me going when I start talking about the market. I want what's best for you guys, whether you're buying or selling. So if you are, reach out to us, please. Like the video, subscribe, join the Daniel Clanio. And even if you're not buying or selling, if you know someone who is, we referrals is the best compliment we can get, guys. And our business is building and grows off referrals. So anytime we get a referral, we feel amazing, like we're helping people. So appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great night, a great week. Go to bed early, and we'll see you in the next one. Hoo day, go Reds.